and welcome to the AgriBusiness Global Report. My name is Sarah Webb, and I'm editor of AgriBusiness Global and host of today's show. In this segment, I speak with Willie Negroni, who is recently named North American President of Albaugh, about industry acquisitions, advice for companies navigating these acquisitions and partnerships, and more. Thanks for joining. Willie, thanks so much for joining me today. I understand that Albaugh had a 2022 acquisition of Rotam, expanding internationally. Would you say that this reflects a broader trend within the industry of acquisitions being focused more on sustainable products?
Yeah, I would say that strategic acquisitions are continuing, but they happen for various different reasons: market access, registration, portfolio strength, manufacturing assets. Among some of the reasons. But I would say the trend in for synthetic ag chemistry is probably is reducing, since it's a mature market segment of the ag chem industry. But when you bring up biological and sustainable products, this is more of a new segment of the industry. Therefore, we are seeing what we're watching, many more acquisitions and or mergers in this segment of the ag chem industry.
Okay, and building on that, what advice do you have for companies who might be navigating some of these acquisition or partnerships?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to give advice to all others without knowing their individual business fundamentals, but you're really understanding their strategic direction to where they're wanting to move their business, and find opportunities that help them capitalize on that.
Okay, and then switching gears here just a little bit, with US tariffs being what they are currently, do you have any advice on strategies needed for companies to be successful in North America?
Yeah. You know, with the U.S. tariffs, it's definitely put a spotlight on this, but I would say it's not new. Having a diversified supply chain, I think that's something that's being really highlighted with the tariffs. But I would also say it's not a new strategy. I think that strategy's been deployed for most companies for a long time. Having a multi-source supplier in countries, in a country, but also outside of a country where possible is desirable. As we saw with the U.S. tariffs, each country had a different tariff rate. All that affected the cost of goods when it landed here in North America. So not only having multi-source suppliers, but also multi-country supplier where possible.
Well said. And is there anything else that you would like to add, whether it's about tariffs or strategic acquisitions?
Yeah, I would just say, the ag chem industry in general is under significant pressure at this time, from the farmer to the manufacturers of ag chems, the whole ag chem industry. Navigating these times, whether it be looking at mergers, acquisitions, looking at how you're managing your supply chain, is definitely challenging. But ultimately, it's the task at hand in today's ag chem industry.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining me today and for all of your insights, Willie. We appreciate it.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in for this episode of the Agribusiness Global Report. I'm your host, Sarah Webb. Until next time.